When billionaire CEO Nathan Sterling agrees to impersonate his best friend on a blind date, he thinks it's just one dinner to help out a friend. But the moment he meets Emma Rossi, talented artist with a heart full of dreams and eyes that see, right through his lease of everything changes. Greetings, fellow dreamers. This tale is filled with love, secrets, and a twist you'll never forget. Step into the tale. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Nathan Sterling's penthouse office, each drop like a bullet against the glass. Thunder rolled across Manhattan's skyline as he stared at the city below, his reflection ghosted in the storm, darkened window. At 32, he commanded an empire worth billions, yet the hollow ache in his chest reminded him that success was a cold mistress. "Nathan, you have to help me." He turned to find Jake Morrison bursting through his office doors, panic etched across his usually composed features. Rain dripped from his disheveled hair, and his expensive suit looked like he'd wrestled with the storm itself. Emma rose. Jake gasped, collapsing into the leather chair. "Hey, the woman I've been talking to online for months. I finally asked her out, and she said yes. Tonight?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "So go. What's the crisis?" "My ex showed up, unannounced. She's at my apartment, planning to stay the week." Jake's voice cracked with desperation. "If I cancel on Emma now, I'll lose her forever. She's been hurt before. She'll think I'm just another guy making excuses." The storm outside seemed to mirror the chaos brewing in Nathan's chest. What exactly are you asking me to do?" "Go in my place. One dinner. Your similar height. Build. In that dim restaurant, she'll never know the difference." Jake's eyes pleaded. "Just be polite, have dinner, then tell her there's no connection. Clean break." Nathan's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "You want me to impersonate you on a blind date? Have you lost your mind?" "She deserves better than being stood up." Jake's voice broke. "Please, Nathan, you're the only person I trust with this." The words hung between them like a curse. Nathan had built his fortune on calculated risks, but this felt like stepping into quicksand. Yet something in Jake's desperation, something about a woman named Emma Rose who'd been hurt before, made him pause. "One dinner," Nathan heard himself say, "then it's over." 3 hours later, Nathan stood outside La Bernardine, adjusting Jake's navy tie that felt like a noose around his throat. The storm had passed, leaving the streets gleaming under streetlights. His reflection in the restaurant's windows showed a stranger wearing his face. Inside, the hostess led him to a corner table where soft candlelight danced across white linen. He checked his watch. 7:30, she would arrive any moment. This Emma Rose, who had captured his best friend's heart through a computer screen. Then she walked in. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. Emma Rose moved through the restaurant like poetry in motion, her auburn hair catching the warm light. Her black dress simple yet elegant. But it was her eyes that stopped him cold. As green as sea glass. They held depths of pain and hope that spoke to something broken inside him. She approached the table, and when she smiled, Nathan felt his carefully constructed world tilt on its axis. "Jake." Her voice was honey over gravel, sweet with an edge of vulnerability. "Emma?" The lie tasted like poison on his tongue as he stood to greet her. When their hands touched, electricity shot through him, and he saw her pupils dilate. With the same shock of recognition, as they settled into their seats, Nathan realized he was in trouble. This wasn't just any woman. This was Emma Rose, and she was about to destroy everything he thought he knew about himself. "I have to confess," she said, twirling her wineglass. Nervously, "I almost didn't come tonight." "Why?" The question escaped before he could stop it. Her laugh was music and heartbreak combined. "Because I'm terrified of getting my heart broken again. The last man I trusted said he loved me. Then I found him in bed with someone else." Nathan's chest tightened with unexpected rage toward a man he'd never met. He was an idiot. Emma's eyes widened at the intensity in his voice. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he said, and meant it with a fierceness that scared him. As dinner progressed, Nathan found himself forgetting Jake's instructions entirely. Emma spoke about her. Art with passion that lit up her entire being, her hands moving expressively as she described color theory and design philosophy. She was brilliant, funny, and achingly beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with her appearance. "Tell me about your work," she said, leaning forward with genuine interest. Nathan's blood turned to ice. He was supposed to be Jake, a marketing executive with a normal job and a normal life. But looking into Emma's trusting eyes, the lies felt like shards of glass in his throat. "It's complicated," he managed. "Most worthwhile things are," she smiled, and Nathan felt himself falling into an abyss with no bottom. The waiter brought their dessert, and Emma reached across the table to steal a bite of Nathan's chocolate. Mousse, her finger brushed his, and the simple contact sent fire racing through his veins. "This is nice," she whispered. "I was so nervous, but you make me feel safe." Nathan's heart shattered. She felt safe with Jake, a lie made flesh. What would she do when she discovered the truth? That the man sitting across from her was Nathan Sterling, the ruthless CEO whose name appeared in Forbes and Fortune, that he built his empire by destroying smaller companies, that he was everything she probably despised about corporate America. "Emma," he began, but she pressed her finger to his lips. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't ruin this perfect moment with words." Her touch burned like a brand, and Nathan knew he was lost. He was supposed to walk away, to tell her there was no connection. Instead, he was drowning in her eyes, in the way she laughed at his jokes. In the unconscious way, she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. As they walked outside into the cool night air, Emma slipped her hand into his. The simple gesture felt more intimate than anything Nathan had ever experienced with the countless women who'd warmed his bed and left his heart cold. "I'd like to see you again," she said, her voice soft with hope and fear. Nathan stared down at her upturned face, at lips that begged to be kissed, at eyes that held tomorrow's promise. He should say no. He should end this now, before it became something that would destroy them both. Instead, he cupped her face in his hands and whispered, "Yes." Then he kissed her, and the world exploded into stars and shadows, into promises he had no right to make and desires he couldn't deny. When they broke apart, both breathless, Nathan saw his own amazement reflected in her eyes. "I wasn't expecting this," Emma whispered against his lips. Neither was he. Nathan Sterling, master of the universe, had just fallen completely and irrevocably, in love with a woman who thought he was someone else. And tomorrow, Jake would expect a full report on how he'd gently broken Emma Rose's heart. Instead, Nathan was planning their second date. Nathan stared at his reflection in the marble bathroom of his penthouse, gripping the sink until his knuckles went white. 48 hours had passed since the dinner that changed everything, and Jake's increasingly frantic voicemails burned, like acid in his conscience. "Nathan, call me back. How did it go with Emma? Did you end it cleanly?" The irony tasted bitter. There had been nothing clean about the way Emma had kissed him goodnight. Nothing simple about the way she'd whispered his name, Jake's name, against his lips like a prayer. His phone buzzed. "Emma, thank you for last night. Haven't smiled this much in years. Can't wait for Saturday." Their second date, which Nathan had arranged without a second thought for the consequences. His hands shook as he typed back. "Me neither. You're incredible, Emma." The words were true, even if everything else was a lie. Crosstown, Emma Rose hummed as she painted, her brush dancing across the canvas with more joy than she'd felt in months. The morning light streaming through her Brooklyn studio apartment windows seemed brighter, colors on her palette more vivid. "Someone's glowing," her roommate Lily observed, appearing in the doorway with coffee and a knowing smile. Really made an impression. Emma's cheeks flushed pink. "He's nothing like I expected. There's this intensity about him, like he's carrying the weight of the world. But when he looks at me, ... She trailed off, touching her lips where his kiss still lingered like a ghost. "Careful, Em. You're falling hard. Maybe I am." Emma set down her brush, her voice soft with wonder. "Maybe I'm tired of being careful." Meanwhile, Nathan paced his office like a caged predator, his empire forgotten as Jake stormed through the doors without knocking. "What the hell happened?" Jake demanded, his face flushed with anger and confusion. Emma texted me this morning, gushing about what an amazing time she had. You were supposed to let her down easy. Nathan's jaw clenched. Plans changed. Changed how? Jake's voice rose dangerously. Nathan, what did you do? I fell in love. With her? The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Jake staggered backward as if struck. You what? You heard me? Da-da, da-love, 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 ridud. A word, otta-well, mentod, unword. She's extraordinary, Jake. Brilliant, funny, real in a way I've never encountered. She deserves. Better than being lied to? So you're going to tell her the truth? Jake's laugh was harsh with disbelief. That the man she thinks is Jake Morrison is actually Nathan Sterling, the billionaire CEO? That everything about last night was a deception? Nathan's silence was answer enough. You bastard, Jake breathed. You're going to keep lying to her? You're going to steal my life, my identity, because you fell in love at first sight like some romantic fool. Your identity. Nathan's voice turned to ice. You mean the identity you begged me to wear so you could avoid disappointing a woman? You've never even met in person. It's different, and you know it. Is it? Nathan stepped closer, predator recognizing prey. Because from where I stand, it looks like you wanted the easy way out. Well, congratulations, Jake. You got it. Jake's face went pale. Nathan, please. You don't understand what you're doing. Emma isn't like the women you usually date. She's not interested in money or power. If she finds out who you really are, what you've done, it'll destroy her. Then she won't find out. When she wants to meet your friends, your family, when she wants to see where Jake Morrison works. Jake's voice cracked with desperation. How long do you think you can keep this up? Nathan's smile was sharp as a blade. Long enough. That Saturday, Nathan found himself in Central Park, watching Emma sketch the autumn leaves, with an artist's passionate focus. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair twisted up with a pencil, and he'd never seen anything more beautiful. In his life, you're staring, she said, without looking up from her sketchpad. Can you blame me? He moved closer, breathing in her scent of vanilla and paint thinner. You're mesmerizing when you're focused. She glanced up, and the smile she gave him was devastating. Jake Morrison, are you trying to charm me? The name hit like a physical blow, but Nathan forced his expression to remain steady. Is it working? Maybe? She set down her pencil and turned to face him fully. Tell me something real about yourself, something you've never told anyone else. Nathan's chest tightened. Everything he wanted to tell her was forbidden, wrapped up in an identity he couldn't claim. Right. I'm afraid he said finally. Of what? Of ruining this. Proving I don't deserve something this good. The honesty surprised him, raw and unfiltered. Emma's eyes softened. Hey. She reached up to cup his face, her thumb tracing his cheekbone. You're not going to ruin anything. I trust you. The words were a knife to his heart. His eyes leaning into her touch, memorizing the feeling of being trusted by someone pure and real. I trust you too, he whispered, knowing it was the biggest lie he'd ever told. That evening, as they walked through her neighborhood, Emma stopped in front of a small gallery displaying local artists' work. Someday, she said, pressing her palm against the glass, I want to have a showing here.
Ow.
I want people to see my work and feel something, you know. I want to matter. You already matter, Nathan said fiercely. To me, you matter more than anything. She turned to look at him, surprise and something deeper flickering in her green eyes. Jake. He kissed her then, desperate and hungry, pouring all his forbidden feelings into the connection of their lips. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Come home with me, she whispered. Nathan's world tilted. He should say no. He should. Make an excuse. Keep some distance before this charade spiraled beyond his control. But looking into Emma's eyes, seeing her vulnerability and trust, he was lost. Yes, he breathed. Her apartment was small and cluttered with art supplies, canvases leaning against every wall. But it was warm and lived in, filled with the evidence of a creative soul. Nathan had never been in a space that felt more like home. They made love. That night with a desperation that surprised them both, as if they were trying to fuse their souls together through touch alone. Afterward, Emma lay curled against his chest, tracing patterns on his skin. "I love you," she whispered in the darkness. Nathan's heart stopped. "Emma, I know it's crazy. I know it's too soon, but I've never felt anything like this before." She looked up at him, her eyes shining with tears. "I love you, Jake Morrison." Nathan held her tighter, his throat closing around words he couldn't say. "I love you too." It was the truest thing he'd ever said, and the most damning lie he'd ever told. As Emma drifted off to sleep in his arms, Nathan stared at the ceiling and realized he was in hell. He'd found the woman of his dreams, and she was in love with a man who didn't exist. His phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. A text. From Jake. "This ends now, Nathan. Tell her the truth, or I will." 2 weeks later, Nathan's world began to fracture. Emma's laugh echoed through his penthouse as she explored the space he'd claimed belonged to a friend who was out of town. Her fingers trailed over expensive art and custom furniture, but her eyes held only wonder, not greed. "Your friend has incredible taste," she said, spinning in the center of his living room. "This place is like something out of a magazine." Nathan watched her from the kitchen, his chest tight with guilt. Every moment with her was stolen time, borrowed happiness built on quicksand. But seeing her here in his real space felt like coming home. "Emma," he began, but she was already moving toward his office. "Is this where your friend works?" She paused at the threshold, taking in the wall of monitors, the mahogany desk covered with contracts bearing his name. Nathan's blood turned to ice. He'd forgotten to clear away the Sterling Technologies documents. "Don't go in there," he said quickly, but Emma was already inside, her artist's eye cataloging details. She froze at the desk, her face going pale as she lifted a contract with Nathan Sterling's signature bold across the bottom. "Jake," her voice was small, confused. "Why does your friend have documents with Nathan Sterling's name on them?"
Nathan's.
Mind raced. "He works for Sterling Technologies. Those are probably client files." Emma's eyes narrowed, and for the first time he saw suspicion flicker across her features. As a marketing executive, these look like executive-level documents. He's high up in the company. The lies fell like ash from his tongue. "Emma, please, can we just Nathan Sterling?" She spoke the name like a curse. "I know that name. He's the CEO who bought out 3 smaller design firms last year, to dozens of freelancers out of work." Nathan's stomach dropped, remembered. Those acquisitions, calculated moves to eliminate competition. He'd never considered the individual artists affected. "The man is a monster," Emma continued, her voice gaining heat. "He destroys everything he touches for profit. No soul, no conscience, just endless greed." Each word was a blade to Nathan's heart. This was how she saw him, his real self. A soulless monster who destroyed lives for money. "Maybe there's more to the story," he said weakly. Emma's laugh was bitter. "There's never more to the story with men like him. They see something beautiful and unique, and their first instinct is to own it, control it, or destroy it."
Ow.
Nathan turned away, unable to bear the disgust in her voice. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan sparkled in the afternoon sun, but the view had lost its appeal. All he could see was the empire he'd built on other people's dreams. Emma moved behind him, her arms encircling his waist. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get worked up about your friend's boss. It's just that men like Sterling represent everything I despise about this city." Nathan closed his eyes, leaning back into her warmth, even as her words carved him hollow. "What if you're wrong about him? I'm not." Her voice was certain as death. "I researched him once after he destroyed my friend's design firm. Nathan Sterling is exactly the kind of man who would see love as a weakness to exploit." The words hit their mark with devastating precision. Nathan had built his fortune by exploiting weaknesses, by finding what people valued most and using it against them. How was what he was doing to Emma any different? His phone buzzed. Jake again. "Meet me now. This has gone far enough." "I have to go," Nathan said, gently extricating himself from Emma's embrace. "Work emergency." She smiled, trusting and beautiful. Go save the world, Jake Morrison. If only she knew he was the one destroying it. An hour later, Nathan faced Jake in the rain outside a small cafe in Midtown. His former best friend looked haggard, desperate. You have to end this, Jake said, without preamble. You're living a lie, Nathan. Every day you continue, you're stealing more of Emma's life. I'm making her happy. You're living in a fantasy. Jake's voice rose above the rain. Happens when she wants to meet your coworkers? Your boss? What happens when she realizes Jake Morrison doesn't exist in any database, any social media, any public record? Nathan had been asking himself the same questions, but hearing them aloud made them real, immediate. I'll figure it out. How? By creating an entire false identity? By faking a job, a history, a life? Jake grabbed Nathan's arm. Listen to yourself. You sound insane. I sound like a man in love. You sound like a man obsessed. Jake's eyes were hard with judgment. The Nathan Sterling I knew would never hurt an innocent person like this. What happened to you? I met Emma, Nathan said simply. And for the first time in my life, I understand what I've been missing. Jake stared at him for a long moment, rain dripping from his hair. She's going to find out eventually. And when she does, it won't just break her heart. It'll destroy her ability to trust anyone ever again. The words hit Nathan like physical blows, but he held his ground. That won't happen. It will. Jake's voice turned deadly quiet. Because I'm going to tell her. The threat hung between them like a loaded gun. Nathan's expression went arctic, and for a moment, Jake glimpsed the ruthless CEO who'd conquered Wall Street. You won't, Nathan said. Watch me. Jake turned to walk away, but Nathan's hand shot out, gripping his wrist with bruising force. If you do this, we're finished. 15 years of friendship, gone. Jake looked down at Nathan's hand, then back up at his face. We were finished the moment you decided to steal my life. I never wanted your life, Nathan said fiercely. Wanted mine to mean something. With Emma, it does. Built on a lie, built on love. Jake pulled free, his expression sad and angry. Love doesn't excuse what you're doing, Nathan, and it won't protect Emma from the truth. As Jake disappeared into the crowd, Nathan stood alone in the rain, water streaming down his face like tears. He pulled out his phone, Emma's contact information glowing on the screen. He could end it now. Send a text, make a call, tell her Jake Morrison had realized they weren't compatible. It would hurt her, but it would be clean, final. Instead, he called her Jake. Her voice was warm honey in the storm. Are you okay? You sound strange. I'm fine, he lied. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner tonight, somewhere special. Of course. Is everything all right? Nathan closed his eyes, memorizing the sound of her voice saying his false name with such tenderness. Everything's perfect. But as he hung up, Nathan realized he was standing at a crossroads. Down one path lay the truth, which would destroy Emma, but free them both. Down the other lay deeper deception, a web of lies that would eventually collapse and bury them both. He chose the path to hell, paved with the best of intentions and the worst of choices. That night, as Emma slept peacefully beside him, Nathan made a decision that would damn them both. He wasn't going to lose her. Not to the truth, not to Jake's threats, not to anyone or anything. Even if it meant destroying everything else in his life to keep her, especially if it meant becoming the monster she already believed Nathan Sterling to be. 3 months into their relationship, Nathan's carefully constructed world began to crumble with the force of an avalanche. Emma stood in her studio apartment, surrounded by half-finished canvases, her phone pressed to her ear with shaking hands. The voice on the other end belonged to Marcus Chen, owner of the gallery where she'd dreamed of showing her work. I'm sorry, Emma, but the exhibition has been canceled. The building's been sold, and the new owner wants us out by the end of the month. Sold to who? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Some corporation. Sterling Properties, I think. They're tearing down the whole block to build luxury condos. The phone slipped from Emma's nerveless fingers, clattering to the floor. Sterling Properties. A subsidiary of Sterling Technologies. Nathan Sterling's company. The man she hated had just destroyed her dreams without even knowing her name. She sank to her knees among her paintings, 26 years of hopes and ambitions crashing around her like broken glass. Every canvas represented months of work, of pouring her soul onto paper and canvas, and now they would never see the light they deserved. When Jake arrived that evening, he found Emma sitting motionless on her couch, staring at nothing. What happened? Nathan kept Jake's casual nickname, though it felt like poison in his mouth. She told him about the gallery, her voice hollow and mechanical. Nathan listened with growing horror, recognizing the acquisition he'd approved 3 weeks ago. It had been just another number on a spreadsheet, another property to add to his portfolio. He'd never considered the small businesses, the dreams, housed within those walls. "I'm sorry," he said, the words inadequate and hollow. Emma looked at him with eyes empty of their usual light. "You know what the worst part is? I actually started believing I could make it, that I could matter in this city. But men like Nathan Sterling, they own everything. They decide who succeeds and who fails, and people like me are just collateral damage." Each word was a nail in Nathan's coffin. He watched the woman he loved break apart, knowing he was the architect of her destruction. "Maybe there's another way," he offered desperately. "Another gallery, another opportunity." Emma's laugh was bitter as medicine. "You don't understand. That was my chance. Marcus believed in my work when no one else would. Now it's gone. Because some billionaire wanted to add another zero to his net worth, Nathan wanted to tell her everything. That he could restore the gallery, that he could give her exhibitions in every major city, that he could make her the most celebrated artist of her generation. But all of that would require revealing the truth, and the truth would destroy what little remained between them. That night, Emma cried herself to sleep in Nathan's arms, and he lay awake counting each tear as another crime against the woman he loved. The next morning brought worse news. Jake appeared at Nathan's office without warning, his face grim with purpose. "I found something," Jake said, sliding a manila folder across Nathan's desk. Inside were photographs. Nathan and Emma at dinner. Nathan and Emma walking through Central Park. Nathan and Emma kissing outside her apartment building. But these weren't casual snapshots. They were surveillance photos, professional quality, taken with telephoto lenses. "Where did you get these?" Nathan's voice was deadly quiet. "Someone hired a private investigator to follow you. Someone who knows exactly who you are and what you're doing." Nathan's blood ran cold. "Who?" Jake's expression was grim. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." "But Nathan, someone knows about Emma. Someone knows you've been living a lie, and they have proof." The implications hit Nathan like a physical blow. If these photos became public, it wouldn't just expose his deception. A gold digger, a woman who'd been secretly dating a billionaire. Her reputation, her career, her entire life would be destroyed. "We need to get ahead of this," Nathan said, his mind already racing through damage control scenarios. "No," Jake said firmly. "We need to end this. You need to tell Emma the truth before someone else does. I can't. You have to." Jake's voice rose with desperation. "Nathan, these photos are a weapon. Whoever has them can destroy both of you. Whenever they choose, the only way to defuse the situation is honesty." Nathan stared at the photographs, seeing his happiness captured in black and white, already feeling like memories from another life. "If I tell her now, after the gallery, she'll think I'm the monster who stole her dreams and then manipulated her heart. Aren't you?" The question hung in the air like a curse. Nathan met Jake's eyes and saw the truth reflected there. He had become the monster Emma believed Nathan Sterling to be. That evening, Nathan made a choice that would haunt him forever. Instead of confessing, he decided to eliminate the threat. Using resources he'd built over years of corporate warfare, Nathan traced the private investigator back to his employer. The name on the check made his blood run cold: Victoria Aldrich. His ex-fiancée, a woman whose heart he'd shattered 3 years ago in pursuit of a merger that would secure his empire. She wanted revenge, and she'd found the perfect weapon. In Emma Rose, Nathan called Victoria from his car outside Emma's apartment, his hands steady despite the chaos in his chest. "Hello, Nathan." Victoria's voice was silk over steel. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out. What do you want?" "Justice. You destroyed my life for money, Nathan. You told me you loved me, made me believe we had a future, then threw me away the moment your precious merger was threatened." Nathan remembered. Victoria had been a liability, her family's company, a competitor he'd needed to eliminate. Ended their engagement to facilitate the hostile takeover, justifying it as business. This is between us, Victoria. Leave Emma out of it. Victoria's laugh was sharp as broken glass. Oh, but she's perfect, isn't she? So pure, so trusting, so much like I used to be before you taught me better. What do you want? Nathan repeated. I want you to choose, your empire or your love. Give me controlling interest in Sterling Technologies. Or I release these photos along with a very detailed story about Nathan Sterling's secret girlfriend. The demand hit Nathan like a physical blow. Sterling Technologies was everything he'd built, his life's work, his identity. But Emma was his. Soul, I need time to think. You have 24 hours. Choose wisely, Nathan. You've taught me that in business, there's always a price to pay for what you want most. The line went dead, leaving Nathan alone with an impossible choice. He found Emma in her studio, painting with desperate intensity, trying to outrun her grief. Through art, she looked up when he entered, and the forced smile she gave him broke his heart. Hey, she said softly. I'm sorry about earlier. I know I was a mess. I have every right to be upset. I don't want to be that person who falls apart over every setback. She set down her brush and came to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. I have you. That's what matters. Nathan held her close, breathing in her scent, memorizing the feel of her against him. In 18 hours, he would have to choose between saving her from the truth or saving his empire from destruction. I love you, he whispered into her hair. I love you too, Jake. The name was a knife to his heart, but Nathan realized something in that moment that changed everything. Emma didn't love Jake Morrison. She loved the man Nathan had become when he was with Herkendor, gentler, more human than the ruthless CEO, who'd built an empire on others' dreams. She loved the man Nathan could be, if he were brave enough to become him. As Emma drifted off to sleep that night, Nathan made his choice. But it wasn't the one Victoria expected, and it wasn't the one that would save them both. It was the choice that would damn him forever, but might just redeem his soul. The morning sun cast long shadows across Nathan's penthouse as he prepared to sacrifice everything he'd ever built. Emma still slept in his bed, her auburn hair fanned across the pillow, unaware that their world was about to end. Quietly, his movements precise and final, like a condemned man preparing for execution. He'd spent the night transferring assets, liquidating accounts, and preparing documents that would strip him of everything he'd spent 15 years building. By noon, Nathan Sterling would no longer be a billionaire CEO. He would be nothing more than a man who loved a woman more than his own soul. His phone buzzed. Victoria, time's up, Nathan. What's your choice? Meet me at Sterling Technologies in 1 hour, Nathan said. Bring the photographs. Victoria's laugh was triumphant. Smart man, don't make me wait. Nathan hung up and turned to find Emma watching him from the bed, her green eyes soft with sleep and something deeper. You look like you're going to war. She said, In a way I am. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed, reaching out to trace her cheekbone with trembling fingers. Emma, if I asked you to trust me completely, without questions, would you? Confusion flickered across her features, but she nodded. Of course. Jake, what's wrong? The name hit him like it always did, but this time Nathan didn't flinch. Promise me something. Whatever happens today, whatever you hear or see, remember that every moment we've shared has been real. The man who loves you, who would die for you, that's real. Emma sat up, worry creasing her brow. You're scaring me. Nathan leaned forward, kissing her with desperate tenderness, pouring for months of love and a lifetime of regret into the connection of their lips. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Remember that I love you, he whispered, more than anything. More than everything. Before Emma could respond, Nathan was gone, leaving her with the echo of words that sounded like goodbye. An hour later, Nathan faced Victoria across his office conference table, the manila envelope containing his destruction sitting between them like a loaded weapon. Victoria hadn't changed much in 3 years, still beautiful in a cold, calculating, a way that had once attracted him, still sharp as a blade, and twice as cutting. "You look tired, Nathan," she said, her manicured fingers drumming against the table. "Love keeping you awake at night? What do you want, Victoria? I told you. Controlling interest in sterling technologies. Or your little artist girlfriend becomes front-page news as the billionaire's secret mistress." Nathan pushed a thick folder across the table. Victoria opened it, her eyes widening as she scanned. The documents inside. "What is this?" "Everything," Nathan said simply. "Controlling interest in sterling technologies, all subsidiary companies. Penthouse, the Hamptons house, the art collection, it's yours." Victoria's face went pale. "This is impossible. You're worth billions." "Not anymore." Nathan's voice was steady as stone. "As of 30 minutes ago, I've transferred controlling interest of my empire to you." "Congratulations, Victoria. You win." "But why?"
Act.
Victoria's voice cracked with shock. "Your company is your life.
Act.
It's everything you've ever worked for?" "No," Nathan said quietly. "Emma is everything I've ever worked for. I just didn't know it until I met her." Victoria stared at him as if he'd grown a second head. "You're giving up billions of dollars for a woman who doesn't even know you're real." "Name? I'm giving up billions of dollars because she deserves better than a lie." Nathan stood, straightening his tie one final time. "The photographs." Victoria. With shaking hands, she slid the envelope across the table. Nathan took it without looking inside, then fed the contents through his office shredder, watching months of surveillance turn to confetti. "You're insane," Victoria whispered. "Maybe, but I'm free." Nathan moved toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Victoria. Emma is going to need gallery space for her work. There's a property on Madison that would be perfect. Consider it your first act as CEO." Before Victoria could respond, Nathan walked out of his office for the last time, leaving behind 15 years of empire-building and soul-crushing ambition. But his hardest battle still lay ahead. Emma was waiting in her apartment when Nathan arrived, still wearing the clothes he'd left in that morning. She took one look at his face and knew their world had changed forever. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Nathan's heart shattered. "You know who I am. I'm the man who loves you more than his own life. It's not what I'm asking." Emma's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Jake Morrison doesn't exist. I spent the morning searching every database, every social media platform, every public record. There is no Jake Morrison who matches your description, your job, your life." Nathan closed his eyes, feeling the last of his carefully constructed walls crumble. "My name is Nathan Sterling." The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan watched Emma's face cycle through shock, disbelief, and finally devastating comprehension. "Nathan Sterling?" she repeated, the name falling from her lips like a curse. "The man who destroyed my gallery? The monster I told you I despised?" "Yes." Emma staggered backward, as if struck. "You've been lying to me for 4 months. 4 months of lies, of deception, of making me fall in love with a man who doesn't exist." "I exist," Nathan said desperately, stepping toward her. "Everything between us was real. My feelings, my love for you, the man I became when I was with youth, it's all real. Nothing about this is real." Emma's voice broke with anguish. "You manipulated me, used me, made me trust you while you laughed at how naive I was. I never laughed at you. I fell in love with you. You fell in love with the idea of owning something pure." Emma's tears finally spilled over, tracking down, her cheeks like silver scars. "Just like I said, men like you see something beautiful and your first instinct is to possess it." Nathan felt his heart die in his chest. "That's not true, isn't it? You saw a woman who hated Nathan Sterling? So you became Jake Morrison to win her over. How is that love? How is that anything but possession?" Nathan had no answer because, in the deepest part of his soul, he knew she was right. He had seen Emma as something to be won, conquered, claimed. Even his sacrifice meant nothing if it came from the same selfish place. "Gave up everything for you," he said, the words tasting like ash. Emma's laugh was bitter as winter. "You gave up everything for your own conscience. Don't dress up your guilt as love." The truth of her words hit Nathan like a physical blow. Even now, even in his grand gesture of sacrifice, he was thinking of himself, of easing his own guilt, of proving his love in the most dramatic way possible. "You're right," he admitted, his voice broken. "I am the monster you thought I was." Emma stared at him for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. "The worst part is that I really did love you. Not Nathan Sterling, not Jake Morrison, but the man you pretended to be. The kind, gentle person who made me feel safe." "But he was just another lie, wasn't he?" "No," Nathan whispered. "He was who I wanted to be for you, but not who you actually are." Emma wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her voice gaining strength. "I need you to leave now, and I never want to see you again." Nathan stood there for a moment, memorizing her face, knowing it would be the last time he saw the woman who'd changed his entire world. "I'm sorry," he said finally, "for everything. You deserved so much better than me." "Yes," Emma agreed, her voice steady, despite her tears. "I did." Nathan walked to the door, his hand on the knob, when Emma spoke again. "Nathan," he turned, hope flaring in his chest. "The gallery on Madison, that was you, wasn't it?" He nodded silently. "Don't." Her voice was ice and fire. "Don't you dare try to buy my forgiveness. I'd rather never show my work than owe my dreams to you." Nathan nodded again and walked out of Emma's life, leaving behind the only woman who'd ever seen past his money to the man he could have been. 6 months later, Nathan Sterling, no longer a billionaire, no longer a CEO, just a man with a broken heart and a trust fund that would keep him comfortable but not powerful. Read about Emma. Rose's first gallery showing in the arts section of the Times. She'd found her own way, her own gallery, her own success. The photograph showed her standing beside her paintings, radiant with joy and accomplishment. The man beside her had kind eyes and an honest smile, everything Nathan had pretended to be. Nathan folded the newspaper carefully, tucked it into his jacket, and walked away into a future that would never include the woman who taught him the difference between having everything and having something worth having. Emma had been right. She deserved better than him. She deserved better than his love. And maybe that was the most honest thing Nathan Sterling had ever admitted.